Hello and welcome to the Psalm 40 project. My name is Jonah, and today with me is, myself. Hang on, 1 second.
Welcome to the Psalm 40 project. I'm Pastor Mike, and today with me is Jonah Gollahue, and he's handing off the baton, the interviewing baton to me today. So Jonah, it's good to be together.
Yeah, we haven't done this in a little while.
No, and we made it to this point finally.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
we'll talk more about how this developed, but it was quite a while ago when we kind of brainstormed
It's
this
been,
thing, so.
over 6 months or so?
That's right.
So, yeah, it's great to see the reaction that people have been giving it.
So Jonah, the burning question on everybody's mind is this.
Oh, there's a burning question
There's
on
a
everyone's-
burning
okay.
question when it comes to you, and that is this. How does someone who gets an MDiv at Calvin Seminary end up being a communications coordinator of all things, rather than a traditional pastor?
Yeah. Many of you might have just realized that I have an MDiv from Calvin Theological Seminary. So that is true. To be honest, I've kind of fallen head over heels into this position a little bit more than maybe seeking it out or things like that.
Yeah.
I used to run audio boards when I was in college. That's sort of how I paid my way to get through college.
Now, what does that mean, run audio boards? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm the guy that's up there moving
In
the
church.
faders around.
Okay.
This was for the university.
Okay.
So I did musicals, presentations, 16-piece bands, things like that.
Cool.
And we would run 130 events a semester. So that was sort of my initial step into this role. Was when I came to Grand Rapids, I needed a job. And after my first semester into seminary, I stumbled across LaGrave's posting that they needed somebody to run their audio-video department. And so I interviewed, got that position, and it slowly just spiraled from there. I finished my MDiv, and the communications committee was wondering what I was going to do next. They started to envision the position that is now the communications coordinator. So that's kind of how I've just ended up in this position.
Yeah.
Was just sort of this, this sort of trajectory of using a skill set that I have developed outside of the classroom.
So we jumped right into your current day. Tell me a little bit about God at work before university and thinking about how your growing up experience, your university experience shaped you in other ways to do a ministry like this.
So I can trace all of this back to my parents' separation when I was about 10 years old. I can honestly say that if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here. And that's just the way it is. Like, my life path completely diverged at that point. Just moving to a different city,
Okay.
which then put me in the prime place for my alma mater, Waynesburg University. They were on the West Coast recruiting for students, and because of where I was living, I went to that college fair, and they basically had everything that I wanted at that time. I wanted to play college football.
Okay.
I wanted to study criminal justice, and I wanted to study psychology. I wanted to be the profiler, the guy who kind of came up with like the psychological makeup of criminals, individuals.
Yeah.
Criminal Minds was a huge influencer at that time. And so I went to Waynesburg, which is in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, 3,000 miles away from where I grew up. I grew up in California.
Wow.
So left the desert mountains for more of the forest mountains.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where this whole thing kind of started. I enjoyed my criminal justice class, but it really wasn't something I wanted to do with my life.
Okay.
So I actually spent my entire freshman year just kind of floundering, getting some gen eds out of the way, not really knowing what I was going to do. So I actually dropped out of Waynesburg. Told him I wasn't coming back, didn't sign up for class, moved back to California with my mom, and spent the summer trying to figure out what I was going to do. And a month, not even a month, probably 3 weeks before classes started, I had no options. So, being the good Christian 19-year-old that I am, I said, God, if you will get me back into Waynesburg, I will go into ministry.
A little bit of Gideon Fleece going on there?
Exactly.
Okay.
So I called the vice president of the university, who was a mentor of the leadership program I was in. So I had a direct line to him.
Yep.
And I said, hey, I want to come back. What can you do for me? He said, hang on. About the end of the week, he called me back. He said, can you be here on Monday? I got your classes. You're back in the leadership program. I've got all your scholarships back. You just need to be here on Monday. So I came back. I went into music ministry and youth ministry as my majors. And when I graduated, I got a job as a youth pastor.
Yep.
And it was in a church with students that were they were Christians their entire life. So they knew all the Bible stories.
Okay.
So sitting there with them, I could tell that I was trained to teach basic Bible stories. And I knew that if I wanted to talk with them, help them grow deeper in their faith, I needed more than just sort of surface level Bible stories. I had a buddy in college that we did music together. He was out here at Calvin doing a master's in worship.
Okay.
And he said, you got to come out here. We have the worship symposium.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you can stay with me, just come out here, check it out.
Yeah.
So I did. And I didn't meet with anybody at Calvin Seminary. I just hung out for 3 days with my buddy. And, he kind of was like, this is the program that I'm doing, and we went to all the events. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So without even talking to anybody, I applied, was accepted, and basically I quit my job. I punched in my address to where the apartment that I was, and just hit go and started driving. And that's kind of how I got here.
A life-changing road trip.
Yes.
Nice.
There are a lot of closed doors.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have my language isn't that necessarily of God's calling.
Yeah.
That wasn't something that I grew up with. And so, but I can definitely look and point at different aspects and be like, there's definitely a spot there.